Hey guys, it's been a while since we posted any video for this channel, and today we are back here again to provide more knowledge for your powerlifting journey. We're gonna start to revisit some of the old videos that we had. Actually, in fact, what we're gonna do today is our first video, which is bracing for squats, and today we're gonna provide more insights and more structure about how to brace, especially for your squats and deadlift. So let's get on with it. Alright, so this video is different from what we had on the first video of bracing for squats because number one, there's better audio, and number two, we have structured it in such a way that you can understand how to brace much better. So how do we structure it is basically into three different categories, and today we will have myself, Adam and JJ to actually share with you what are the three things that we always want to take note and be aware of when we are bracing. Okay, so we're gonna break it down into these three, and the first one is called neutral back, the second one is ribs down, and last but not least 360 degrees expansion. So right now I'm gonna share with you what is neutral back. Alright, so when we squat or deadlift, we always want to try and achieve a neutral back position. So this is the position where you will feel the strongest, not in an extension or in a full flexion. Okay, so in order for us to, and for you to understand what is neutral back, I have JJ over here to show you actually how the spine looks like in a neutral position. Okay, so in a spine, right, naturally, right, it's not in a straight line. If your spine is straight, something is wrong with you. Okay, so in other words, actually in a normal spinal behavior, if you look someone from the side, let's start it from here, you will see a bit of curvature. This is what we call slight extension. Okay, right here, right, so over here. Okay, what comes next is another curvature, which is the thoracic. This is our mid back. So our mid back is supposed to be slightly flexed like that in this position, so it's curved like that. Okay, and last but not least, it will come back down to the lumbar where it is slightly extended. So this position will mimic basically your cervical spine position. So at all times when we squat and deadlift, right, this is what we are trying to achieve, this neutral back position. Okay, there are many times where people try to think about having a feedback or feeling, oh, when I squat, I need to make sure my back is tight so that I can keep the weight light and anchored on my back. So what we will always do is try to squeeze the back really hard like that. So what happens when you do this, you create a loophole in the front because your chest is elevated. Later, Adam will share with you what is ribs down position. So anyway, in this position, you lose that natural position of the spine. Okay, when you lose that natural position of the spine, right, it basically put you in a position where when you are lifting weights, all that power is gonna get leaked from all these positions. Another leak position is where you are in full flexion mode. So someone, especially for deadlifts, when they want to try and grab for the bar, right, they'll go into full flexion mode to the extent where your thoracic is so flexed that it's very hard for him to maintain the position and tension. Okay, now that you have understand the basic understanding of how the spine should look like, we will go into the squat position to help you see what are the correct and proper position you should achieve and what are the bad habits that some people are adopting. Hopefully here we are trying to help you understand it better so that you can change it and then your squats will be better. Okay, so let's go into the proper one first. Okay, in order to get into a proper position, all you need to do is to start yourself in a neutral position. Okay, try not to alter anything from your mid back. Okay, I understand people like to squeeze their back, squeeze the back. Okay, squeeze the back, elbows up. So what happens? Chest goes up, this starts to arch, and then this is open up. So this is not what we want. Okay, so let's go back to a neutral position. Okay, so once again, neutral. Keep everything chill and relaxed here. Okay, there's no exact feedback of how neutral spine should be like. Okay, when you're standing, you can't feel shit on your spine, right? So that is how you should feel. Okay, so if you come to the back, you should see that from this position back to the slight curvature on the cervical, and then that neutral flexion, and also the extension on the lumbar. So this is neutral position. Okay, so just now we have shown you the chest up and then extended position. Now JJ, can you try to flex even more? So flex to the extent where your core cannot brace. Okay, you can put the bar back. So before we move on to the deadlift, right, I also want you to understand that neutral back is in relation to your hip position. Okay, when we are setting up for squats and deadlift and we are moving anything from which has a movement of squat and deadlift, we always want to keep our hips as neutral as possible. When you're finding out whether your spine is neutral or not, we have to make sure that your knees are slightly bent. Okay, with your knees slightly bent, then you have free range of motion on the hips. Okay, so once again, if you try to adopt the extended thoracic position, you realize that the hips start to move backwards into an anterior tilt position, so kind of like a twerking position. So what results in this is a lot of lower back tension. So if you're squatting and deadlifting and you're feeling a lot of lower back, this is probably why, because you are already anchored in this position by changing this position. So if you keep it neutral, your hip goes back to neutral. So we should always try and do that, okay? So in the other spectrum where we try to crunch too much and flex the thoracic, which is the mid-back, your hips will go into a posterior tilt. So when you're tucked in this position, your hips get so locked up and then you are losing power here. So when you squat, you'll start to cave in, your hips will rise and all shit will start to happen. Okay? Same goes for deadlift. We go into the deadlift over here. Alright? We consider the factor about neutral back in relation to the hip, right? Let's go to conventional first. Okay, so many of us like to try to grab the bar without making sure our spine is in a neutral position. Okay, so in this neutral position, what he needs to do to get to the bar is to bend the knee slightly first and then start maneuvering the lower body, especially the hip and the knees, to reach for the bar. So you're hinging from the back, you're not rounding anything here. You're hinging from the back, you bend your knees a bit more until you reach the bar. Let's go. Right, so in this position, right, JJ is in his best position to keep this in a neutral, neutral, and neutral position. So there's an arch, there's a flex, and then there's an arch here. So this is your neutral position. If you were to not adhere to this spinal behavior, this is what will happen. Flex your thoracic. Yes. Alright, so as you can see here, because of his flexion on his thoracic, the lumbar follows the behavior. So the lumbar gets into a flexion as well. So when you pull like that, right, you're gonna get messed up in the lower back and you're gonna get a lot of injury from there. Okay? So for sumo, same thing. Let's go into a sumo. This is the last one I'm gonna share with you before I move on to Adam. Sumo stance. Whenever you set up for sumo, in order to maintain neutral back, knees must be bent when you are setting up. That allows you to have free range and understand and feel your hips moving. Okay? Keep your spine really neutral and everything. This really has to feel. You just have to feel that everything is stacked nicely and you can feel that you're basically in a normal standing position. Okay? So when you're standing, you don't do this or you don't do this, right? You just stand normally. So with your knees bent, just think about normal, natural position. Okay? Then you start moving your lower body, once again moving your hips and your knees to reach for the bar. See? So you will start to hinge accordingly to reach for the bar. Okay? So you'll bend his knees a bit more so that the shin touch the bar, and this is his best neutral position he can find based on his leverages. Okay? There's quite a lot to take in, and I hope that with this information it will add up in addition to the next two things that Adam and JJ will share. So right now I'm gonna pass it to Adam, and Adam is gonna share with you what is actually ribs down behavior. So let's go.